Hey everybody, Space Invaders Invincible Collection is now available today on Nintendo Switch, digitally in the West, I should say. It's been available in Japan physically, I guess, for a little bit here, but it only is just now today available in the West digitally. So if you guys have a huge hankering to play a bunch of different Space Invaders games, this is where you're gonna, quench that thirst. You're gonna feed that hunger here. By shooting tons of Space Invaders. So, one caveat here, though. You're getting 10 games, actually 11 games, but it is $60 right off the bat. So, you're either going to want... this is going to appeal to very certain people, I think. Very particular people, I should say. People who have this, huge nostalgia for Space Invaders, or people who just love shoot-em-ups. So, I say that there's 11 games. You got Space Invaders Color version. It's the exact same game, but color. Space Invaders Part 2, Lunar Rescue, which is pretty interesting. We'll get to that in just a second. We have Space Cyclone, Majestic XII, Super Space Invaders 91, Space Invaders DX, Space Invaders Extreme, and Space Invaders Gigamax 4 SE. A few of these games I've never even heard of and never played. But there is an 11th game which I have not been able to play because it doesn't seem like it's available on the store or whatever. But it does say it is in this package. It's a separate download, a separate game, but it's Arkanoid versus Space Invaders, which looks like it's an iOS or Android, touch screen game. So, I don't know. Maybe that's a touch screen only type game. I'm not sure. I'd like to cover that once it is available to see what it's all about. But you guys have seen Space Invaders before, right? We're going to jump into the color version here just so you can see what Space Invaders is if you haven't seen it before. But everybody's heard of everyone's heard Space Invaders before. You've heard that name. Any gamer worth their salt knows what it is. It is, a pioneer in the shoot-em-up genre. I mean, this is what you got here. Released in 1978 originally. So you got these real chunky sprites. People have seen these sprites, on all kinds of different merchandise. So even if you don't know the game, you know the characters. Those little bugs are all over the place. So yeah, this is Space Invaders. It might seem kind of boring by today's standards. I like to jump into a Space Invaders game every now and then and just shoot some aliens. It's fun. But I think that people are going to come to this collection not so much to play the originals, and I could be wrong about that depending on who you are and where you started gaming and that kind of thing, because some of you probably started with this game, and you may be hankering to jump into some of the original Space Invaders. But some of the other more interesting titles that have been added, I think, is really the crux of this collection's, what is going to draw people to it. Because, personally for me, like I said, I come back to Space Invaders every now and then. I have my own cocktail arcade cabinet. Check out my video on that if you haven't seen it before. But Space Invaders is in that cocktail cabinet, and I play around with that every now and then. It's fun, But I don't think that, kids of today's, today's gamers, we'll say, are going to really be into this. They might appreciate it for what it is. I'm not so sure they're going to want to play a whole lot of this. That's when they get really, really fast. I always panic at this part. Oh, just missed him. Got him. Whew. So there you go. That is round 1. Here is round 2. Second verse, same as the first, right? Anyway, one thing that this game does add, which you'll be happy to know, is a quick save. So, for example, if you do want to save it, I can come back to round 2 at any point, load this up, quick load it, and I'll be right there, which is great. One of the other things, too, is you can rotate the screen. So, for those of you who enjoy Tate mode, you can jump in and play it that way. You can take your Switch, put it on a book, or if you got, one of these cool things where you can put your phone or your Switch on it, and sit back and play on a larger screen. You can do that, which is great. There are leaderboards too for anybody who is keeping score on that. So let's jump into some of these more unique games here that I've never played, never heard of actually. So Lunar Rescue I think is a standout. I think this is a really, really cool game. It's one I've never heard of. You hear Lunar everything for arcade games, right? But I've never seen this game before. It's kind of like Space Invaders meets Frogger, which I thought was kind of cool. So your spaceship up top here, you release a pod, and then the pod drops, and you have to drop it on one of these score platforms. So there we go. Then a little guy runs over, jumps in, and now we have to make our way back up to the ship. This is where the Frogger part comes in, and this can get pretty tricky. But I gotta say, I was actually impressed with this. I like that there's like kind of like a 2-round situation going on here. Is it gonna open up for me? There we go. And then you get it right in there. Boom! We scored some points. Awesome. Alright, we're gonna drop here. Getting down here, avoiding this asteroid is gonna be a little tough. But yeah, like I said, I thought that this was a standout game. I thought that this was pretty cool, and I feel like it holds up pretty well. Like I said, I'm sure some of you younger viewers out there are probably watching this going like, uh-huh, sure. Or probably saying like, yeah, I played like 50 games like this on itch.io or something like that, right? But this game's old school, man. This came out a long time ago. All right, we will jump off here. One of the other things I should mention, too, before we go any further, is that every game has a challenge mode, so if you jump in and go to challenge instead of normal, they're going to offer you a challenge to play the game a little bit differently. So, for example, in the original Space Invaders, if you hit challenge for this version here, wipe out the invaders, get hit once, and the challenge is over, and you have a time limit of 90 seconds. So it's basically a time attack mode, kill as many aliens as you can in 90 seconds, and don't die. So there's a challenge for every game, which I think is pretty cool, and it adds a little bit of replay value for everything. So they also added this one called Space Cyclone. I'm kind of lukewarm on this one. I don't think it's awful, but it hits a very certain nostalgia feel to it. For those of you who played games in the arcade back in the day like I did, I never played this one, but the sounds and just the overall feel of it and everything like that is just like so arcade. So you hit these little clouds and these like little round little footy guys, you know, wearing their footy pajamas, like kind of roll down at you. I don't really understand what's going on or what they're doing, but it's pretty cute. I think it's pretty fun. You don't want them to reach the ground, because if they do, they'll come after your ship.
We're coming.
I love that voiceover, though. I don't know who did that, but it's just some random guy going, "We're coming, we're coming." Absolutely no pizzazz on it whatsoever. Love it. Interesting little game, though. Like I said, not sure that it's like one of my favorites, but it is interesting, and it's cool that they added it in there because it is part of the history of Space Invaders. Now, I did read online, though, that in the timeline of Space Invaders, not every game is actually in here, which is kind of interesting. You think they would have included everything for $60, but there are, I guess, like a couple other, 1 or 2 other games that weren't included that people were a little upset about, that they liked. So, but again, I guess getting 11 games, I mean, what more could you want, right? We're gonna jump into Majestic 12 here. I thought that this was actually pretty cool. We're gonna start a new game instead of loading our quick load there. I'll go back to that another time. T2. But I think that this one is actually going to hit a... this is going to hit a good stride with some people. You get to not only pick a level to start in, but the graphics are very much of, like, I would say the Super Nintendo era. You know, the 16-bit era. And it's pretty, isn't it? It's very pretty. Now, from what I understand, this game and the Super Space Invaders 91 are supposedly very much the same game, except there's some features missing. Like, for example, I guess in Space Invaders 91, you cannot pick what level you want to jump into next. So that is something to keep in mind. But they are basically both the same game. If you just want to play a game that's linear and you don't pick your way, then I guess play that version. I don't know why you would want to do that. It seems like it's a feature they took out to get it to fit on a 16-bit cartridge, I suppose. Oh, they got me. No way I was getting out of that. And it's interesting, when I restarted this, or when I started this game earlier, I actually played on a different level, and things were completely different. Let's quick load where we're at, just so we can experiment there. So you can see here we got some completely different levels to pick from. Let's try that. So yeah, you see here how the enemies are just like completely different from what you would see, you know, in Space Invaders. These almost feel like Galaga enemies, you know? I guess they're not as buggy enough, but they are very colorful. And they definitely remind me of Galaga a bit. Oh! By the way, I never claimed to be good at Space Invaders, I just want to throw that out there. Space Invaders is one of those games where, like, you know, if you're used to playing bullet hell shooters, and other shoot-'em-up games, Space Invaders actually is kind of about patience. It's kind of about picking your shot and not just like always constantly shooting and moving. Like, there is a bit of that too, but it's also about picking your shots and doing the right thing. All right, we are going to showcase a little bit from these next couple here. I'm going to try to keep this video a little bit shorter than my other ones here. But I wanted to show this one off because they introduced something very interesting. I love this text when it rolls in, by the way. Space Invaders had a great... Okay, we can't wait for that. But I love the text sliding in. So this one includes a parody game mode, which I thought was a lot of fun. So in the parody game mode, I mean, in addition to like a verse game mode and the original Space Invaders, the parody game mode I find great because you get to play as a little chicken or chick instead of a spaceship, and he shoots like all these like, you know, very like, you know, silly enemies that are floating up there. So you got like a cat, you got like a pumpkin guy, you got like a weird bird penguin guy thing, which I just loved the sprites in this. I thought that this was great. So if you're looking to, you know, I love Space Invaders, but I kind of want like some real funky Japanese characters in there just to make it weird. That, you know, Taito's got your back right here, that's for sure. But it plays just like regular Space Invaders, so I mean, if you like Space Invaders, you just want a new coat of paint on it, here you go. I mean, even the sound effects are the same, you know? Okay, so there is that. We're gonna jump into, I think what I would call my favorite Space Invaders game, Space Invaders Extreme. I don't remember what I played this on. I feel like I played it either on the DS or the PSP long ago, but I don't remember what system it was actually on. But regardless, Space Invaders Extreme is a great game. It's really, really cool. It took Space Invaders and I feel like it was kind of the inspiration for the new Pac-Man arcade games, or not arcade, Pac-Man champion games that came out, championship games, I think they're called. Because this came out in like 2008, I think. I think the original came out in 2008 on either DS or PSP or both, I forget. But it was interesting because, you know, the Pac-Man Championship games came out later where you could eat like 20 ghosts in a row, you know? But this one, you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a second, because they take Space Invaders and they really go crazy with it. And I think it's such a great approach to the series here. So there's your ship. You can see we got these gigantic Space Invaders up there just waiting for us. And they give you power-ups. They add great music in here.
Level up.
And it's just fun. Like, it doesn't have that, like... Space Invaders has an interesting feeling of, like, almost like dread when you're playing it because of the non-music and the... You know, there is music, but it's almost feels more like, you know, haunting footsteps coming after you, where it's like... And it just keeps getting faster and faster and faster. This just has, like, nothing but fun associated with it because it's just, like... It's got some, like, electronic music going. You keep picking up abilities. The formations of the aliens keep changing. You're getting through rounds super quick. It's just, like a lot of fun. It's almost like a relaxing, fun Space Invaders game. And I have a good time with it. And it's why I played... I actually played a lot of it on... when it originally came out. Had a good time with it. Oh my god, this is like almost like Christmas Invaders.
Grade up. Roulette.
Roulette start. Look, they throw in some of this crazy stuff too. They added like little mini games. Oh, yeah, what's this guy doing? There we go, got him.
Grade up.
But yeah, guys, honestly, like sitting here playing this, I could just keep, I could just keep playing this.
Grade up.
Because it's a ton of fun.
Round start.
But I am going to quit that for now. I will come back and play some more of that at another time.
Stage result.
At the moment, we're going to jump in. We're going to play the last game that's in the collection, besides the Arkanoid game. And that
Total
game,
result.
I find very interesting because I've never heard of it, never knew it existed, but it is a multiplayer Space Invaders game.
Space Invaders Extreme.
All right, I want to quit. This one does not add the overlay where you can just hit start and quit. You got to actually go to quit. But here it is, Space Invaders Gigamax for SE. This is actually a game, in my opinion, that's meant for more than one player. I tried playing a round of it previously with one player, and it's fine, but it's not super fun with one person. But I want to show you what you got here, because if you guys want to play Space Invaders with more than 2 people, this is the game, because everybody gets like their own area. And then the game just starts going crazy. I really like it. It's like they took Space Invaders Extreme, but went back a few steps, you know? So here we are. Look how gigantic this is. It's like you took the original Atari version and said, like, we're going to expand the board out like a mile. It'll be the size of a football field. And there's going to be just a ton of invaders to take out. So you can see here, like, why this would be a lot more fun with more people. I played a round of it on my own. I got to the first boss and everything. Oh, and I said, okay, this is cool, this is cute, I can see the allure of it, but it's something I'll probably never play again first player. If I ever have a couple friends over and I'm like, hey guys, you want to play some old school Space Invaders? And then once I convince them that they do, then, then we'll play this game and try it out. But I think it's pretty cool. I think it's a pretty cool approach to Space Invaders, and I don't know how or when this came about, if this was in arcades only in Japan or something like that. I'm not sure. But I thought it was pretty cool that they included it, because it is just so different from the rest of the games. So here's what happens. Yeah, it starts collecting. This big spaceship shows up, collects all those dudes, and now you go into this part where it starts releasing all kinds of like crazy invaders. They like change size and color and everything like that. And you do your best here, and to me it seems like you can just keep playing forever if you want. Deaths don't seem to matter for whatever reason. They added some cool music. But this again, this compared to Extreme though, this is probably the second most relaxing Space Invaders game you'll play. Because you're kind of just going back. Like I said, deaths don't seem to matter too much. You're not super penalized for it. Get that guy out. I love that the Space Invader dudes get bigger, though. I like that they change size like that. It's pretty fun. Adds a whole new spin on the whole thing. Man, I've died quite a few times already. There's a little bit of a delay there. When you die, you start shooting again. Power shot. So it's telling you here, if you combine with your buddies and you do like you could do a power shot, really hit this guy hard. But unfortunately, we do not have any buddies with us, so our power shot is not as powerful, which sucks. So I think you could definitely tell if this was like on some kind of big arcade screen at one point. But here you go. So the strategy for this guy is like you want to get to the box that is closest to the ground, because then you can shoot as many more times in a row. Like here, you can see I just keep rapidly hitting the button. And, oh, normally he slams on the ground, but he didn't do it this time. Okay, we gotta get out of here. Like that. If you're anywhere near him, it'll take you out for sure. But yeah, I thought this take on the Space Invaders formula was pretty sweet. And for anybody out there who has friends willing to play something like this, I think it'd be a lot of fun. I know this guy does other things too. I don't know why he's not right now. But we got his health down quite a bit. We're doing pretty good. Down down to almost 20 seconds. We got him. Woo. Here, I said this video is trying to make it a little bit shorter. Here, 10 minutes later, we're at 20 minutes. But there's a lot of game in this collection, man. There's a lot to play. That's round 1. But I think you guys kind of get it. It is Space Invaders and a lot of Space Invaders. So if this looks cool to you guys, I recommend checking it out because there's a lot of games here to play if you are into the old school shoot 'em ups. But like I said, it is a steep price. It's $60. I could have seen this at like maybe half the price, maybe even $40, you know what I mean? But 60 does seem a little steep, and that might be my only gripe with it. Other than that, I think that this is an excellent collection of games. So yeah, like I said, if this looks great to you, I recommend checking it out. But other than that, guys, I just want to say thank you for watching, and of course, I'll see you all next time.